So I really love The Witcher. In 2015, when The Witcher 3 came out, that was a really shitty year for me. I had graduated university the year before and I couldn't get a job. I had to move back in with my parents to a small town where there was nothing to do and no way to make friends, and it sucked. I played a lot of video games that year. This is a video about reading the series, but I need to give you some background first. We're getting there. In 2015, someone gifted me all of the Witcher games. I was relatively new to my video game hobby at that point, and I hadn't really played a lot of stuff, so this felt really fresh and exciting. I played all three of them in chronological order, pretty much one after the other, and I really fell in love with the concept. Like, who doesn't want to roam around a magical world, killing weird monsters and boning hot sorceresses? The writing in the games overall was pretty well done, and it made me want to read the books. So there's 2 short story collections at the beginning, and then there's 5 books in what you would consider a traditional series. The 5 books do relate back to a bunch of the stuff in the short stories. I read both of the short story books in the space of a week. I was on a little staycation. I went to a cabin. I took a little bit of footage so you can be jealous of me. It was so fucking cozy. I kept falling asleep reading in front of that fire. It was wonderful. But I have some thoughts. Despite how much my tastes have changed in the 8 years, oh my god, since I read The Last Wish the first time, I still really loved it. I had completely forgotten how steeped in fairy tales this was. Like, obviously it's fairy tale themed with witches and ogres and all of that stuff, but I wasn't expecting the full adaptations of traditional fairy tales like Snow White and Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, and it is so fun to see his take on it. His ideas feel really fresh, and you don't always realize what fairy tale he's telling you until you're halfway through the story, and you're like, oh, it's the 7 dwarves. Okay, I get it now. And that little element of surprise is such a nice treat. This doesn't happen nearly as much in the second book, Sword of Destiny. He delves deeper into his own world in that one, fleshing out his own ideas. The stories still feel like fairy tales, and they often operate on fairy tale rules and fairy tale logic. And that in itself is very grounding. It feels familiar enough that I can imagine what it feels like in that world, but it's fresh enough that I'm not bored by it. It doesn't feel like your generic Tolkien-inspired fantasy world. It feels different and unique and operates logically within itself. It's a difficult balance, I think, to get there. And I think for all of Sapkowski's many, many flaws, he does an incredible job at world building. But we should also talk about his flaws for a second. I feel like in some ways this discussion may have been done to death, but the overt misogyny in these books is painful. I know there's some people on Reddit who disagree that it's sexist, but honestly, you can't deny that there are some really not great moments here. It is dulled down a bit in the games, but it is kind of like baked into the core of The Witcher, especially given that like there are so many female characters in it and they all kind of suffer from the same treatment in a way. I just want to read you one of my least favorite, most favorite quotes from The Last Wish. So, unlike priestesses and druidesses, who only unwillingly took ugly or crippled girls, sorcerers took anyone who showed evidence of a predisposition. If the child passed the first years of training, magic entered into the equation, straightening and evening out legs, repairing bones which had been badly knitted, patching hair lips, removing scars, birthmarks, and pox scars. The young sorceresses would become attractive because the prestige of her profession demanded it. The result was pseudo-pretty women with the angry and cold eyes of ugly girls. Girls who couldn't forget their ugliness had been covered by the mask of magic only for the prestige of their profession. Ugh. There's definitely the sense that every important woman in the Witcher universe has to be hot, because otherwise it would be unbearable trying to talk to her. That is the sense that I get from this quote. And like ugly girls just have a gaze and you can feel it, and you hate being looked upon by an ugly, like, oh my god. There's a lot of this kind of thing. If you want more evidence, there is much discussion online. There are many videos specifically talking about this problem. While researching this video, I saw another video where a woman mentioned how every time a woman in The Witcher was introduced, at some point, Sapkowski describes her breasts. I will link her video down below for all the receipts, but oh, yikes. Just yikes. Also, there's, in the Sword of Destiny, The Witcher screws a barely 18-year-old who's madly in love with him that he's not in love with, and it's really problematic. Not even including all of like the throwaway quotes from other characters about their wives and cheating on people and all of that. It hurts. I read another booktuber's review who said that she couldn't justify reading a book with such relentless sexism, and I do get that. It makes me cringe when I see it, and I roll my eyes. But also, there's so much else that I love about this series that I can kind of acknowledge it for the absolute pile of shit it is and move on. It doesn't ruin the series for me, but like, we all have different tolerances for this sort of thing. And I will acknowledge that playing the games as an escape from a rough time in my life has 100% biased me. We can call it a problematic fave and talk about how bad the women are while still appreciating what is good about this series. It doesn't have to be a binary choice, and I think that might be part of why people on Reddit get so defensive about it, that they feel like they're being told that they can't enjoy this anymore if they acknowledge that it's sexist, and that's not true. That said, there are women that I genuinely enjoy seeing in the books. Triss is my personal preferred Witcher standard issue hot lady, though she hasn't made an appearance in the books yet. Callanth, who is the queen and also happens to be Ciri's grandmother, is both super hot and like razor sharp intelligent too. She gets what she wants, and it's fun to get to know her, and I wish that she got more screen time than she actually gets. I really enjoy being around her. Me being able to enjoy some of the female characters, they do all suffer from kind of being copy and pasted a little bit. It's like the same basic archetype of like hot, strong, independent woman with just a varying slider of how kind or bitchy she is. There's really not much else there. There's not really a whole lot of other nuance. And it gets old. It feels like the trope of I'm a hot, capable woman and I don't need no man, and then they have to be inevitably rescued by Geralt at some point because they can't do everything themselves. And yeah, it just gets old when it's repeated on every female character who isn't a throwaway. I hate the idea that if a woman is strong and independent, she can't be vulnerable or make mistakes or accept aid in the way that male heroes can without sacrificing their heroism. She can't be scared or lost or confused or worried unless Geralt is immediately coming to the rescue. And for a hero, it is so much more compelling to be vulnerable and scared and to do it anyway than for a hero to be overconfident and then need a rescue. This is why the hobbits carry the ring to Mordor and not Legolas. Humans like stories about encountering insurmountable odds, knowing they're insurmountable, and doing it anyway, because that's how life feels. And I'm not saying that you can't find many, many examples of strong, overconfident women that you can love and are nuanced, but Sapkowski is not good at that. He can't do that. And that also brings me to not being able to get behind Yennefer in these books. The sections with her in it were just really difficult to get through. And in the second book, there was a whole story I really had to skim because it was just Geralt and another wizard fighting over Yennefer, with Yennefer being like, okay, bye, fuck both of you at the end. And it was just like, I don't care. I want to go fight a mermaid. I want to see Geralt ride a griffin. Like, I want to fight a dragon. Let's do something else here. Yennefer in general really gets on my nerves because she often literally mind controls people without their consent, including getting them to like fuck her and getting them to kill people. And she never faces any consequences because she has nice tits. Like, you can be a dick to people narratively. I can get behind an asshole character, but either they have to be House MD and be like completely tortured by it, or you have to in some way get what's coming to you. It's frustrating to watch someone in a narrative be an abusive manipulator over and over, but have that never be acknowledged because hot dom sorceress vibes. For fuck's sake, at least have a safe word with this woman. Come on. She's a little bit softer in the games, if I remember correctly, but like in the books, it is tough to understand what Geralt sees in her. Anyway. I did still really enjoy The Last Wish. In Sword of Destiny, I found the stories to be kind of hit or miss for me. There were some really great ones. The mermaids and the ghost ship were good, and I really liked, there was a doppelganger story that was really cool, but there were some that were also just duds. We get introduced to Ciri as well in the Sword of Destiny, and in the games she wasn't my favorite, but I think she has a better chance of winning me over in the books, especially since we get really properly introduced to her as a kid and get to see a lot more of her as a kid. Geralt and Ciri do have a cute relationship, at least when she's little. We'll see if that changes, but it is fun to see Geralt's soft side. The next few books are the series, and I'm going in totally blind. I have no idea what the 5-book series is about, but I'm excited to see more of the world. We haven't met Triss yet, so I really want to get to see how book version Triss is different than game Triss. I want more cool monsters. If you've read the series, I'd love to know your non-spoilery thoughts in the comments. Also, let me know who your favorite Witcher hot lady is. I'm taking a poll. It's important. I'll see you next time when I've finished reading the series. Bye.